Thanks, y'all, for joining the session about jobs in tech. So the way I'm going to kind of walk through what we're going to talk about today through this different slide deck, it's going to have a lot of information. There are going to be some pieces of it that I go through pretty quickly because the main piece that I want to get to today is going to come a little later in our presentation, which is a resource that we have available. It's a web-based asset called Careers in Tech, where you're going to be able to access a lot of this information. But before we get to that site demo, I really kind of want to set the landscape here to provide some context around what career and tech opportunities look like, particularly as it relates to the state of Indiana, provide some data around that, also share a little bit about what we're hearing from industry partners around the impacts of generative AI that have been made already in the marketplace and what we're kind of seeing from a trends perspective. And then I'm going to go into some practical tips for you all as students preparing to enter in and start to navigate what this career field could look like. So we'll talk about some skills development that you can do, as well as starting to prepare for crafting a skills-based resume to make it a little bit more of an easy match to get aligned with those opportunities. So to kick us off, my name is Emily Kitterman. I'm the Director of Careers in Tech here at TechPoint, which we are a nonprofit organization. We operate similar to like a chamber of commerce. So we are industry-led and really focused on accelerating Indiana's digital economy growth and kind of this overall supportive tech ecosystem. We are an initiative of the Central Indiana Corporate Partnership, which all have very similar goals. We're looking to support the advanced industries within the state of Indiana. And really what my main focus is within this kind of ecosystem building. So it's pulling together all these kind of different partners to really focus on where my realm is on the workforce piece of it. So how do we better prepare those entering into the workforce, both as a way as to solve for what employers need, which is skilled talent to be able to move their business operations forward, but also to help those preparing to enter into the workforce to make informed decisions, to align the things that you're interested in, particularly from a lifelong learner journey. And that's something that I think is pretty unique to the tech space, is it's a ever evolving field. So it's something that you have to be willing to continuously learn and be very agile in that learning throughout your entire professional career, so that you can be adaptable to these kind of continuously changing technologies and how they are used in these different business cases. So within our focus on it, we are looking to inclusively grow Indiana's tech economy. And so what that means is it's looking at both traditional and non-traditional pathways and really challenging our industry partners to lean in more into that non-traditional space of it and not just focus on those degree pathways, that there is still certainly value in seeking those advanced degree options. And will always be a space within this area, but also providing those apprenticeship models. So things where it's like you're going to learn by doing that job and also be learning a wage and continuing to kind of amplify what those paths look like. So it is kind of this lockstep piece that we are doing to make things ultimately a little bit more easier to navigate on the job seeker side of it, so that you can find an avenue that's going to best fit your learning style, whatever sort of living environment that you are in order to enter into these advanced industry fields. Like I said, with this deck, I'm going to be sharing some data. And so want to sort of highlight what is kind of our current state here in Indiana when it comes to the tech economy and tech occupation. So most recent data that was reported was for 2024. So from 23 to 24, we did see 2.9% growth. So relatively modest, but we continue to see that these occupations are in demand, even coming through what has been a sort of tricky economic landscape. What we have seen in early adoptions with generative AI technology, which really kind of hit in early 2023, is a bit of this kind of immediate market contraction with it. There were other forces that were happening at the same time as well. And so you've probably, if you were at all sort of paying attention to what was going on with the news, you saw some of the big tech companies that were announcing like massive layoffs. And what we saw with that was it wasn't necessarily a shrinking of that tech economy. It was a correction of overhiring that had happened during pandemic years, while also adjusting those business models for new generative AI tools that were coming in. And so we've continued to see some of that course correcting happen within the marketplace. And at the same time, while some of those reductions were happening, we still saw a net growth overall. So what that means is that even when those corrections are happening and you're hearing about these layoffs, it doesn't mean that it's an industry that is failing. It's just shifting those priorities into areas where they're are trying to most focus their business, which means because we saw this net growth, that ultimately more jobs were added than were ultimately reduced. And when we dig into specific to Indiana, what those roles were, the highest percentage continues to be leading tech occupations are for software programmers, IT support technicians, network and cloud engineers, cybersecurity and data. Those are two that continue from a trends perspective to be on the rise, particularly outside of core tech industry. So those are fields that are in high demand and are continuing to grow in what we refer to as tech-enabled businesses. So they are other industries, think like healthcare, or the pharmaceutical industry or advanced manufacturing, that are pulling in these tech occupations and looking to hire tech talent because their overall business operation has become more digitized. So anything essentially, a lot of these companies are using data. They're trying to make sense of data. That's where you need your data analysts and data science practitioners. And then anytime an industry is using data in large quantities, you need cybersecurity specialists to secure those systems, secure that privacy so that you can build confidence with your customer base. I also mentioned that I want to touch just a little bit on the AI piece of it. This has been the hot topic. And sometimes it can kind of be put up on this pedestal of, okay, this is what AI is, and it's just going to, automate all of these jobs and everything's going to be done by machines. The reality is generative AI technology is very much in a professional setting is being used as a tool. And when we surveyed our industry partners across TechPoint, this is what they reported back to us. So where we really see kind of the largest chunk of usage in this area is that operations piece. So very repetitive, kind of task-oriented functions kind of being more fallen into that AI piece of it, allowing then to open up space for focusing on other areas. So it is very much being used as a cooperative technology to increase that productivity piece of it and allow individuals to work smarter versus working harder. So I want to talk a little bit now on the skills piece of it, because all of this really does translate into a skills language. And when we break it down, the reality is that across all industries, so not just tech specifically, all jobs are requiring digital skills. I think even just how we are meeting today, you have all joined on for a virtual conference. So we are all leaning very heavily on technology systems in order to even just operate and show up today. So it's the reality of our world, and that the majority, and I would say this is a report that was done in 2021. So it was pre-generative AI tech being more freely available to the marketplace. I'd say we are closer now to about 95% of all jobs requiring these digital skills. And I always think about digital skills as a spectrum. You've got at the beginning kind of basis of this spectrum, it's what you're already doing on a daily basis. It's utilizing your phone, going into different apps. It's accessing your email or logging into your virtual education platform, whatever that looks like. It's kind of that base level expected digital skills that we kind of take for granted, all the way to the advanced end of that spectrum, which is being able to write the code for these machines to operate. Because that's all it is. The coding languages, that's what you need to provide the instructions for computers to exercise a given task. And it's everything that falls in between, which is a pretty broad litany of things that you can acquire in a mass. And that's the piece of it as far as where there is value as you are considering different career paths that you want to take. that it will require that continuous learning aptitude, the ability and to have that interest and curiosity in how these technologies work and gaining those new skills so that you can be a competitive candidate in an ever-evolving workforce in how technology is used in these business use cases. This is something that with this study that the National Skills Coalition did, that they found it had a direct correlation to that earning potential. So essentially, as you think of this spectrum of digital skills that you can add, the more that you add to your professional repertoire and that you apply those in a job setting, it's going to directly relate to your earning potential in comparison to those jobs that maybe you weren't using those skills, that were more kind of manual focused or labor intensive. So it's something to always kind of keep in mind that this does have a direct benefit and direct tie to what you can potentially earn in the future as you are thinking about a career path that might make sense for you and a learning path as far as the kind of skills that you want to add right now as you prepare to think through what it looks like to come into this space. I'll leave this up just for a few minutes just to kind of provide some of those examples of what this looks like across different industries and some of the current tech systems that these businesses in different job titles are using on a daily basis and how it's kind of just embedded into that expectation of how these employees are operating. To really focus on that bottom line piece of it is even those entry-level positions are going to require foundational digital skills. So again, those things you use on a daily basis, accessing the different systems, different applications, as kind of that basic level to then all the way to that advanced field, depending on what you're looking for. So breaking this out, what are those skills? As that most in-demand occupation that we saw in Indiana being software developers and software programmers, those different programming languages are going to be your most in-demand core tech skills. And there's a variety of them. I'd say right now, Python continues to kind of hold the test of time in an AI world. SQL and R are more for those data analysts and data science pieces of it. And then you're getting into more of your cloud-based infrastructure systems. And so being able to operate within the AWS infrastructure or Microsoft Azure, which is the Microsoft cloud infrastructure. And then you've got your agile programming and methodology. So this is a system that is used across the tech industry as far as a way of operating within different projects. And this agile methodology is essentially an industry standard as far as being able to iterate. So you're working and figuring out what's going to work, learning from what did work, what didn't work, and adopting and changing as you go versus expecting to kind of build out everything that you need and hoping that it works perfectly and then going back to the start to work. So it's a adopted way and very attractive within the tech industry that's trying to move very quickly and has been adopted across a multitude of different industries because that iterative model allows you to start something and build from it and gain those insights versus having to do a lot of lead time before. So that's something I always like to highlight because it's not just core to tech industry. It is a worthwhile learning that you can access right now as far as agile project management or getting those sort of project management certifications. It has a lot of transferability across a multitude of different industries. And then those operating systems piece of it, this is something that's going to be very industry specific as far as what operating system they use. I think a perfect example that we're experiencing right now in Central Indiana within healthcare systems is this shift over into the Epic EMR system. So that's something, if you're considering the healthcare field and you want to know how tech is used in healthcare, that's something to explore a little bit more and gain those certifications and credentials in that Epic operating system. The other piece that I always want to hit on when we talk about skills is because sometimes what gets lost in this conversation from a skills lens is we put a lot of emphasis on the technical skills piece of it. So the things that you can go and take a course on and be able to show that validation that, yes, you now have this technical skill and you can do this particular thing. But what really industry is looking for and what you have to meld as you prepare to enter into a professional environment are what is now being kind of referred to as durable skills. This set of skills has a myriad of different names that it's referred to. Sometimes it's called foundational skills. Sometimes it's interpersonal skills, professional skills, social emotional skills. They're the things that you have been working on, honestly, since you were a little kid, as far as playing out on the playground at recess, where you had to figure out the rules of the game. You had to negotiate and communicate with your peers before you could start something. And you've continued to develop those skills throughout your interpersonal interactions. But these can be sometimes a little bit more difficult to showcase. But ultimately, when essentially you get past that first barrier, when you think about applying for jobs, you might be focusing on those technical skills, but what ultimately they're going to evaluate you on an interview process is, what's your problem solving ability? So how do you think through, and your critical thinking skills? What leadership skills do you showcase? How do you communicate within different environments? And can you communicate effectively to your peers? Can you communicate to a manager? What's your written communication look like? Are you able to give professional presentations to peer audiences or superiors? So these are skills that you kind of have to weave into those technical skills that you're building and be able to speak to effectively in that interview stage for any sort of role that you're going to apply for. We very much push for a skills-based hiring practice with all of our industry partners. These are research-backed methodologies that allow for better hiring and a better fit match for those companies. It also ultimately does improve the diversity that we bring into different companies and increases equity as far as who's applying for different jobs. And I always highlight this piece of it as far as just a knowledge base for job seeker audiences, so that you can start to kind of reverse engineer what the career exploration process looks like. Because I think it's important to think about, what are the skills that you're going to need to develop, and therefore the learning that you need to, and learning and experience that you need to access in order to go into a specific role, and making sure that it's an area in their skill sets that you come to naturally, that makes sense for you, that it inspires that learning, versus being something that you're just, picking a role kind of out of a hat and then trying to build towards that. Really focus on those skills piece of it. And this is kind of an example of what a skills-based job description is going to look like. And so in doing this, it's a way, and got this kind of reverse engineering of building out how you search for jobs, how you think about careers from a skills lens. It is valuable to start this as early as possible to do a skills tracking or kind of a skills journal. So this is where you can start to break it down, just like that job description does, where it names the skill, it gives the definition of what you should be expected to do with that skill. And start doing that for yourself. So you identify a skill that you have, that you've obtained through specific learning, lived experience, work experience, whatever that is. You define it, so simple definition, and then you provide a narrative example of what that experience was. So this kind of just outlines what that looks like. An easy way to start doing this now from a tracking mechanism is with an Excel document. And what will happen is, if you start to nurture this now, is that over time, you'll have multiple real life examples for that individual skill. And you'll start to have this massive repertoire of skills, so that you can more easily customize resumes as you come to different job opportunities, and can start to more effectively showcase your talents and be able to show up with your best self to that interview. I'm going to go through these a little quick just for time. I want to make sure we get to our demo, just sort of highlighting that tech industry is embedded into really all industries and what that looks like. These are all Indiana-based companies, or companies that have an Indiana presence. And I always like to highlight in that tech-enabled circle that really is our largest swath of opportunities. You see a company like Eli Lilly, which is a pharmaceutical company, one of the largest employers in the state of Indiana, and also employs a significant amount of tech talent, because their entire business operation does not function without all of those sort of tech pieces and that digital environment working the way that it's supposed to. This is just, we are an Indiana accelerator, so we always highlight that in Indiana, there's a lot of support for this innovative development. There's a lot of support and funding that is going to the tech sector and digital transformation across industries. Your dollar is going to go a lot further. So these are opportunities that the kind of average median wage for tech occupations in Indiana is about $78,000 annually. So these are good paying jobs that you can come into, and that dollar is going to go a lot farther, say, in comparison to where we naturally think of the tech industry getting started out on the West Coast, where it's about 3 times as high. I'm going to just skip through that. Okay, so our Careers in Tech platform, I want to spend these last 10 minutes really focusing on this asset that we have built, where you can start to explore the top 25 careers that are available here in Indiana, start to see what are the skills that you need for those roles, what can you earn in those roles, and how can you start your learning path now. We've got a quick little intro video here.
Are you exploring a career in technology? Tech offers unparalleled opportunities for growth, whether you're a high school student, a recent college grad, or a professional looking to switch careers. At TechPoint, we are Indiana's experts in the tech industry, and it's part of our mission to guide you to achieve your tech career goals. Through our Careers in Tech platform, we showcase the journey from entry-level digital literacy to advanced tech roles, helping you visualize, navigate, and develop your career and digital literacy. TechPoint's programs and resources, like our virtual learning through partnerships, provide you with essential skills and credentials. From K-12 students to career switchers, our resource directory navigates you to the information best aligned for your needs. Explore micro-internships, free training, and our various talent programs to gain hands-on experience and build your resume. Or watch and learn from video testimonials featuring leaders in the roles you're interested in. With Indiana's tech industry expanding rapidly, our latest report highlights the top 25 tech careers and the pathways to achieve them. Discover how you can.
All right, I'm cutting that off. Just in the interest of time, I want to get into some of the different components of the Careers in Tech site that we have. So you can access this through the TechPoint website. We also have a vanity URL. It's just careersintech.info, so that you can start exploring the different components of this site. The biggest piece is we do this breakdown of the top 25 tech careers. So what we did is we had a working group together of our industry partners. So this is directly from Indiana industry, highlighting what are the current top 25 tech careers that these companies are hiring for. What skills do they expect professionals to have for that role at the entry level point, a mid-level, and at that advanced point in their career? What the salary insights, so what do you earn coming into that opportunity? And then what we added to it was to go a little bit deeper to be able to highlight, okay, how can you start your education pathway now? In whatever form that looks like, both traditional and non-traditional, as well as have embedded some free education resources that you can start to access right now as a student, to start building out through a virtual learning aspect. So mentioning earlier how I talked about kind of reverse engineering your job search from a skills lens, we wanted to make sure that this aligned with that. So it names the skill, it defines it, and it shows what those different levels are. So you can start to map out what is it going to look like as I have to build out those technical skills in that repertoire, so that you can really break it down in that finite level, to be able to not only identify a career path that might be interesting to you on where you're at currently, but also be able to make a more informed decision about what makes sense from a learning path going forward. The free learning that we have embedded, we kind of have 2 pathways. This one is through the Forage platform, which operates like a micro internship. So different companies and this is not a site that we own, it's a third-party site. So there are companies that have been sourced from across the globe. What we did is we created a specialized classroom specific to the tech careers that we outline. And you can go through these different simulations. They're anywhere from 1 to 2 hours to max 3 to 4 hours that you would spend. And they break it down on the skills that you're going to gain by going through that simulation, So you get to actually try these things on. And then if you complete a full simulation, then that is something you can directly add to your resume because they have been submitted by industry and they are split out by title. So this is a good example here. It's a technology track that you can do that was submitted by Deloitte. Deloitte is a global consulting firm. So it's going to really dig into those pieces. And it's something that I think is really valuable for students early on, to be able to bolster your experience when that access might not be readily available. We know how difficult it is to find work-based learning opportunities directly through an employer. So this is something that you can access now and be able to sort of bridge that gap before you get that opportunity for, say, an internship or an employer-sponsored work-based learning opportunity. If you're looking more just to, like I said, build out those digital skills, the Infosys Digital Academy that we have embedded in the site allows you to do that through module based. So you get to go through, and they have, this slide is actually outdated. It's about 11,000 different courses in essentially all things kind of tech skills. This is modeled off of this company's internal training system that they have. So the way that they skill up their current workforce, they've now adopted that for a student learner audience. So you can go in there and learn the foundations to machine learning and generative AI systems, or go in there and get a crash course in cybersecurity specifics. So it's a way to just start to, depending on where you're at in your learning journey, you can sort of ad hoc the things that you're doing already in your computer science courses, or you can expand your learning to things that maybe you haven't had access to, but you're interested in, and you want to accelerate that interest. I'm going to go through these quickly. These are programs that we have. So if you go the post-secondary college route, we offer an internship program in the summer. We help essentially get you matched with companies that are looking to fill tech talent. These are full-time paid internships. So if you do go the college route, make sure to come back and check out our extern program if that is something that you are looking for to help you get that internship. If that college and post-secondary route doesn't feel like the right path for you, and you're more of a hands-on learner, and you want to work while doing and also earning that wage, after you turn 18 and you graduate from high school, our adult apprenticeship program might be an appropriate program for you. That's where we combo some of those boot camp style trainings to get you day ready to be hired into a sponsored employer that's going to bring you into an apprenticeship program. So this is modeled off of what we have seen a lot of success for in different trades, like plumbers apprenticeships, electrician apprenticeships, where you learn how to do a very specific job by being hired in and shadowing other mentors. So we are adopting this for the tech industry so that you can come in, and where we have current demand in our adult apprenticeship program is pretty heavily in data analysts and cybersecurity specialists. We also host a job board. So if you get to that point, just sort of wanted to make sure you're aware of this. We source from our industry partners for them to put any of their tech openings. So it's anything from internships and entry-level opportunities up to mid and senior level. Last few minutes, I know I kind of burned through those last few slides quickly, just sort of at the note of time. This is just a way to provide feedback for me. So I always want to try to make this presentation better. So if you've got your phone and can pull that out quickly, or if you want to type in that URL into the search bar there and provide some feedback on this session, I would really appreciate it. But otherwise, that wraps my presentation on careers in tech. Here for our last few minutes to kind of give you a chance here. And if any questions came up, okay, I know an hour. Yeah, so this, I appreciate the question that yes, AI continues to get smarter. It is the way, being that it is a machine learning technology, it's going to learn the more that we engage with it, and is not sure what happened there. Sorry about that, y'all. That we lost for a second there. Okay, sounds like we are. I am back. Is there, Sarah or Bobby, any way to pull that question back up? I don't know if my response was getting there pretty clearly. Yes. So recognizing that this technology isn't perfect, and it is only as good as the prompt that you are giving it. So it does require knowledge and competency of what you are trying to get out of it. So if, say, you wanted to use a generative AI tool to help kind of develop code for, like in this example, kind of developing games, it's like you do need to have that base knowledge, because it's not going to be able to fill that gap where you don't already have that high competency. What it's going to do is to work as an asset to help you kind of unlock maybe where some of those gaps are. I feel like the way that it's being used in professional environments, just kind of speaking of how we even use it at TechPoint as kind of a starting off point. So being able to just have kind of this sounding board where you can throw in those ideas, provide those different prompts so that it can spur your own critical thinking and knowledge base and help you move along on what it is you're trying to accomplish. But overall, no, it doesn't always work very well to kind of just start to finish give you exactly what you want if you don't already have that knowledge base of kind of knowing where you want to end up. I always kind of think of these systems being that they are that prompt based. It's like that output is only going to be as good as that input. So at this point in your kind of learning journey, I would highly encourage you to not only learn about how these systems work and have been trained. So the machine learning modules in that Infosys Digital Academy would be really helpful, but also take any sort of learning opportunities and module based that you can around the prompt engineering. So the ability to give the right instructions to a generative AI system so that you can get out of it what you need to be the most effective. Oh, so this, mine's very unique in the sense that I work for this entity TechPoint. And so what my entire job is to do what I'm doing today. It's, we've built out and sourced the information to build out the website. So the careersintech.info, so that is a responsive asset. And so we work as an entity at TechPoint. We are this intermediary. So we are pulling together our tech employers, so those who are actually doing that direct work and trying to gain those insights to provide information to, in my realm, to job seekers. So I really work as kind of distilling this information, helping folks make sense of it, identify what those career paths look like, understand what kind of education and training might be needed, be able to inform you on what employers are actually looking for, so that you can match that with your education. But my background very much has always been in the nonprofit sector. And that's really the organization that we are. We are a nonprofit entity that is working to amplify and accelerate and create this holistic tech ecosystem. So that's really where we're kind of unique in the sense that we are not a tech company, but we support the tech companies of Indiana's overall tech economy. Yeah, that is a big question, and I know it's a lot to kind of navigate right now from a decision-making standpoint. So I think if that desire that you have is in the computer science field, I think utilize the Careers in Tech site to start to think through now how are those computer science competencies, how do those translate into different job functions? And then be able to see, okay, what makes sense from a possible career path so that you can navigate what that learning journey looks like. And if that does mean kind of going into that 4-year college path, and that's where it makes the most sense for you to continue on, then that is going to provide a little bit more guidance there. But it might also mean that you could potentially find an area where it might make more sense to go into a certification pathway, or to kind of create your own learning journey in a way that maybe that might not be the best fit. So I think it's really, when it comes to making those decisions, it's around what excites you about the computer science field, then start to identify those different career titles and start to understand what additional learning and training do you need in order to break into that. And that could be going that advanced degree route, whether that's 2-year, 4-year, or it could be something where you start to get some of that learning and training and start working right away if that's what makes more sense.